Okay, are we ready for a clap?
Mm-hmm.
SVD? I hope you...
Hold on.
I was going to say if you've recovered from your coughing.
No.
I was looking at something here.
It's porn.
Yeah. Oh, I just realised...
That's not until midnight. Shut up.
Okay.
Wait a minute, it's
usually
midnight. It's midnight in 25 minutes for me. What?
Well, it's midnight somewhere, isn't it?
No, it's 25 minutes away from midnight somewhere.
Yeah, every other place in the world's irrelevant.
Well, we're usually on a +1 time frame. There's very few places that are plus half an hour.
Shut up.
Which means it's technically 5 minutes after midnight. Somewhere. It's I think it's South Australia does that, where it's like for Australia it's going left to right. Western Australia is like +8. Northern Australia is +9. South Australia is +9.5, and then Eastern Australia is +10. And then when they go into daylight savings, it's +9, I think. I can't remember. Or it's +11. Okay, it's something fucked. I can't remember. It's dumb though.
I just hate time zones in general.
Yeah.
We haven't started the clap yet.
No, we haven't.
No. It's pre-clap, but he throws stuff in. He's sneaky. You can't fucking say anything because he'll throw it in.
My favorite was your Cheerios at the end, just before you hit stop recording, and you even forgot you said it, and I added it into the fade out. Ready?
Is SVD finally ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
All right.
3, 2, 1. I heard, for the first time, I heard both of your claps come through. It was like really, really muffled, but I heard them.
I heard SVDs, but I moved my pop filter out of the way and fucking smacked right into the microphone.
Oh, loads of pent-up
I heard
rage.
the echo because I now finally have drywall up.
Whoa! Evolution.
It's funny because out of context, it makes it sound like he's still building his house. I had a frame, now I have drywall.
Okay, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of the Steam Sentinels podcast, Ep.7, Revoked Keys and New Hardware. I'm your host, Mellow19. I am joined by Surviolent Death. Surviolent Death, how are we this week?
Feeling still pretty sick.
We forced him to do this.
They threatened me. They said that they honestly I can't think of a good joke now.
It's a head cold. It's interfering with his thinking.
They withheld my cough drops from me. There we go. I don't know. I'm here. I'm feeling a little better than I was yesterday. That's about it.
Good. That's good. And I'm also joined by Ratchet. How are we, Ratchet?
Hello, I'm not sick, and I'm going to brag about that.
You and me both. We'll just rub it in SVD's face. Well, I mean, I pretty much was yesterday. I was saying, it's so good to be healthy and not ill.
Mellow,
I can breathe through my nose.
I've made my tea already, thank you very much. This will sort me out for the rest of the evening.
I was going to say, that's like a version of biological warfare that wouldn't work. You like cough on the tea bag, send them to him. By the time they get to him, whatever virus was on them is just dead. Like, how you feeling today? He's like, fine. You're like, fuck.
He spends so much on import tax as well and everything.
Yeah. Why did you send me one tea bag? Because more was like $40. It was like $40 to send 2 tea bags.
He just finds some guy on the street and he's like gone to Target and he's bought like a pack of tea bags. Like, can I have one from you?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a few topics to talk about this week. We have our usual comment comeback segment where we pick out a comment from some of our social medias and we discuss it a bit more in detail. We also have yet another discussion, I think either for the second or third week running, about Steam keys getting revoked unscrupulously. It's kind of gone a bit more mental this week. with a few instances happening, which we'll be getting into later. And we're also going to be talking about the latest Steam hardware reveal as well, what our thoughts are and what is coming out of Steam early next year. But before we get into that, we have a little bit of admin. So next week on, oh god, let me try and work out the date. It is the 16th today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On Sunday, the 23rd of November at 11 p.m. GMT, we will be doing a live episode of the podcast. So next week's episode will be live broadcasted onto our YouTube channel for the charity live stream that we're doing to help raise money for our first annual charity fundraiser. The charity that we will be backing, as soon as I get up my phone, is called Safe in Our World. It is a mental health video game charity that aims to use video games to help improve people's mental health. It was voted for by our community for us to raise funds for this year. We already have about 10 YouTubers or Twitch streamers involved this year, so they will be doing loads of streams. We will be doing an official reveal and schedule reveal later this week. I'm trying to think when this episode might go up. It might go up Wednesday. So yeah, I think it would either be revealed or just about to be revealed. If we have revealed the schedule by the time this podcast's up, there will be a link in the description for you to go and read up on the details and which streamers we've got on board. Some of them might be your favourites, some of them might not be your favourites, some of them you might never heard of. But we'll be revealing everyone that's going to be doing some live streams for us that week, and we'll be showcasing what they'll be streaming, when they'll be streaming, and we'll also have a Tiltify page up to help raise funds for the charity. So if you want to read up on more details, there will be a link regardless in the description, either to the schedule announcement or to the details of the campaign itself. So do please check that out, and also be sure to tune in next week for our live podcast. How that will take shape, I am not sure. Might do a Q&A. We might look at some topics that we've gotten in this week, but it'll all depend. Please keep an eye on our social media channels for more updates. Okay. Moving on to the first order of business, that is what we've been playing. Ratchet, I'll let you go first since I introduced SED first. Ratchet, what have you been playing this week?
I made a mistake buying Black Ops 7, which I have since refunded, but I played that for a little bit. Still been on the Star Citizen grind, and what else have I been into? Battlefield 6. I'm just shooting shit at this point, really. Realistically, I just want to shoot stuff. But yeah, Call of Duty was always. I grew up in the 2000s. Emo culture exists for a reason. Yeah, I played Call of Duty. I expected the multiplayer campaign from a big AAA company to support solo play in a way that would let you pause and play offline, but no. And with AI, right? Because it's 4-player co-op. You'd assume that if the other 3 players are missing, it would replace them with AI. But no, it's your character like having a schizophrenic episode where they talk to themselves. So like you'll hear voices in your head from the other characters because they'll still chat to you. But they're not in the level at all. They're not around. It's just like you talking to like the ghost of Michael Rooker and shit like that. It's so strange. It's so weird, and the map, like, if everyone complained about Modern Warfare 3's map, where it was like, oh, these are just the Warzone maps, not really, they were kind of their own unique maps. The second level in Black Ops 7, I think I said Black Ops 6 before I meant Black Ops 7, the second level in Black Ops 7 is literally a fucking Warzone map. It's a massive open world level, and you have to wander through it, and they give you a grappling hook to wander through it. It's impressively bad for a company with as much money as they have.
Otherwise okay?
Starfield's excellent. Not Starfield. Starfield's also alright, but Starfield MMO, Star Citizen, is excellent. People fought me on Twitter the other day about Starfield. But I'm like, oh, it's a cult, and anyone who plays that game is coping. I was like, bro, I spent the original $45 for it, and I haven't spent a cent since. I'm not supporting them at all. It's fun as fuck. It's a really good space game. and people have told me I'm coping. It's like, alright, I'm going back to playing my cool space game where you get to land wherever you want and kill whoever you want. Cheers.
Okay, I'm pleased you've been enjoying it. SVD.
Sorry, I'm also enjoying some goulash soup that I made.
Oh. You're ill, so we'll let you off. He's probably
So
sat there with his blanket on and everything. Nice and cozy.
Close. It's not that cold. I've got just a light jacket on, like hoodie.
Is it the Sentinel hoodie? Is the main question.
No, because I can't unzip that. I have to
Damn
fucking
it.
put it over my head.
It's a good hoodie. It is a good hoodie, thank you.
Which means I have to take off my glasses, take off my headset,
Yeah.
then put it on, then put my glasses and my headset back on.
It is a good hoodie. It's going on sale next year.
It's just, it needs a zip up version. I agree, because
I will
live
look
in
into
Australia
it.
where it's hot and cold. It is
Listen,
so often.
If we don't get a zip up version, you're gonna have a mutiny. All right.
What? Because
I refuse to.
I
will
pay
install Ratchet as our dictator.
What? Because I paid for the product, paid for the shipping, and sent it
Because
to you.
you paid for the wrong product.
I sent you a very good quality hoodie with a great design on that is very comfortable and great fitting. Thank you very much.
The design's great, and thanks to, was it 2D Engine? I think is the
the artist. Yeah.
I went in and upscaled it to 4K in Blender.
Yeah, collaboration between 2D Engine and Ratchet.
All right, games that I've been playing. So I actually tried out like an indie game that Steam kind of recommended to me, which kind of fits in with what I like. It's called There Are No Orcs. So think of it like Plants vs. Zombies meets Vampire Survivors, where you would put down essentially production buildings in slots, and every X amount of time, units spawn from there. And they might go straight, they might go like diagonal. But the idea, and it's also roguelite, so you are kind of expected to fail at times. But the money that you have left when you die carries over to then your next playthrough. And the idea is that with that money, you have a better head start on the AI throwing units at you. It's not bad. Music could probably, I think it would be really good if it had better music, but like that's not something that you can expect out of an indie dev. I don't know how small the team is, so, but I would still recommend it. And then I played the original Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. So I wanted to kind of go back and see how that was, because I have also started playing Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which I think came out a few years ago. It's got a lot of bells and whistles. I'm actually kind of overwhelmed because you can buy like upgrades that like make your characters like walk faster or jump higher. And on top of that, there's no real like hub world-ish kind of, and there's also no character creator, which those two things are, I think it's a shame that they didn't put it in. Thankfully, there are mods to at least add a character creator back in. Um, but in the newer one, the Skywalker Saga seems to take itself a little bit more seriously than I think the original complete collection. But it's still silly enough that I can enjoy it. It's also weird with how they upped it, how so much more up to date it is, because the complete collection came out like in the 2000s, and whereas this came out like 3 years ago. So there's like actual aiming with like the Lego blasters and whatnot, and like combos that you do, like melee combos, which is really weird. But the nice thing that they added was a handicap that you can toggle so that when your character dies, you don't lose studs, because that was always the thing in these Lego games. So, been playing that and a little bit of modded Fallout 4. That's about it.
Nice, cool. I've been meaning to get into more Fallout 4 because I've seen that they've recently put like a bundle together with like a bunch of creation mods put together, a bit like what the
Don't get
anniversary
me
edition of
started.
Skyrim.
That's 2 hours I could essentially waste right there talking
Oh,
about that
amazing! We've got
and
next
bitching
week's
about it.
episode sorted.
Just
What
call
have
that
I?
one SVD rants for 2 hours.
So,
That'll be a donation tier for our charity stream. If we hit $1,000, we'll get SVD to rant for 2 hours about Fallout. And yes, your rants are that valuable. So what have I been playing? I've not been playing too much this week. I have only played a whopping 2 hours. Well, not even 2 hours, 115 minutes to be exact. Because I've only played one game, and it was No, I'm Not a Human, and I only played that yesterday. It is an indie horror game that released 2 months back, and it's really cool, really fun. Well, I say fun. It's rewarding. No, I would say it is fun. It's not really something that you get active enjoyment from playing, though. It's set in like a post-apocalyptic world. There's these creatures called the Visitors that appear like they're human, but they're actually not. It's a bit like Papers, Please and, oh god, what was that indie game, Ratchet, that you were on about yesterday? Where That's Not My Neighbour, that's it. It's a bit like Papers, Please and That's Not My Neighbour. It was a little bit like those two games where you've got someone that knocks on your door and you've got to make a deduction based on some traits that you watch on TV or pick up on the radio, where they say you can detect a visitor by looking at their eyes because the eyes will be bloodshot. But obviously there can be some red herrings thrown in there, so they might have red eyes because they stung their eyes or something by doing some shit. I don't know, I'm just making this up. But I played 2 hours and I got one of the endings. There's 10 different endings you can get based on how you play and how you perform. But it's really interesting because, like, I watched a YouTube video where that was my first introduction to it. I'm like, okay, this has quite a cool little gameplay loop because you can also, as soon as you, like, invite people in, it might not be obvious at first that they might be a visitor. So when you invite them in, and you've always got to have at least one person living with you because otherwise it's basically an instant death. But you can interrogate them and ask them questions when they're in, but when you need to do a check based on do they have X, Y, and Z, it uses up energy and you can only do a certain amount of inspections per day. And if there's a visitor in your house at a night time, they will kill one person in your house. So you've got to be really, really watchful about who you let in and what tests you actually need to do. So, I've been enjoying that. I'm going to go through and replay it again because I want to get some different endings as well. Because, like I said, I've got one and there's another 9. But I don't know how I'm going to play better than I did because I think I actually got quite lucky on my first run. Because it's all randomized as well, randomly generated for the visitors that you actually get to your home. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I've been playing. So, moving on, we have our comment comeback section. So, we have got a comment here from a Steam user called Michael Von Anken, who posted to one of our discussion forums this week. This was in response to, I say it was in response last week, but I guess it's also in response to what's been happening this week with the ID with Steam key revocations. Michael put on our forums, quote, I agree that Steam can't give us a free copy, but Steam has their own interests to keep their platform free of scammers. I hope they will act in our name and change the key revoking system for the future to avoid more bad moves like this. Thank you very much, Michael, for your comment. So I think Michael's referring to a lot. There's instances, obviously, like where we spoke about with Daily Indie Game, where you get games for basically dirt cheap. So it's like 4 cents or something like that you get a game, and some developers obviously use the argument of, well, you barely paid anything for the game anyway, regardless on the fact that they did the dealing with the bundle site anyway. But
I
they
don't
said,
know. I don't know if Daily Indie Game was involved with the last key revoking thing. Not talking about the ones that happened
oh no,
recently, but
yeah, yeah. I'm only speaking in quite a general context of that. That's an
yeah.
argument that has been made in the past. Um, it's more just a case of it being fair and justified. And obviously the instances we spoke about, whether that was the game files getting deleted from free games that later get paid, or it's a full-on revocation that's happened from a website as well. Um, and Michael's comment kind of shows to me that that seems more it's a context regarding trust rather than money, because yeah, it's probably not that important to someone that they're maybe 5 cents down. It's probably more that if it happens in this instance, it just loses faith in actually being able to keep your games in the future. So I something that I was wanting to discuss with Michael's comment is, do you think Valve are consciously paying attention to that kind of argument, or do you think it's still something that they're not really not considering, but do their priorities kind of lie elsewhere? Because from my experience, they seem to be quite hands off when it comes to some instances of Steam key revocations.
I would have to say that they're going to be hands off. It's not something that happens so often, I think, to them to where they feel like they need to change the whole system around it. The other thing is that even if, let's say, they were like, I can't see how they would change it that wouldn't um, hamper developers. What I mean by that is that if you do have a developer in which they find keys that have been bought with stolen credit cards, or where let's say they've put up keys on their own website, right? Again, that matches Steam's the same price that they have up on Steam, and but the keys on their own website get hit with fraudulent credit cards. Um, it makes sense that they would then want to revoke those keys. Um, Make sure that uh, the people that essentially attempted to rob them didn't get away with it. Or at least, didn't get to continue profiting. And if, let's say, Valve sets up a system to where um, they need to approve key revokings, that could significantly slow that process down because Valve already has all this other stuff that they have to manually go through, like game approvals in general. Um, so to add any more approval systems to what Valve currently has on their plate now, I think is only going to bog down the whole system. I think, unfortunately, how they have it with key revokings is just. I think that's the best that we can essentially do.
Could there be? I mean, this might also. I'm pausing the question, but I think I already know what the answer's going to be. Um, Something that kind of ran through my mind. First of all, was obviously they review the revocation batches, but then, like you say, that's just going to slow everything down, and especially if there's a large batch getting revoked, they can't necessarily go through and just manually review every single key. But is there maybe a suggestion that could be put in place where Steam have a cap on, or at least a lower cap in terms of keys being generated over time, so that then there's lesser collateral damage that can be enacted upon by developers in this way? But I think that goes into, like you say, any change that you put in will just hamper more developers wider in the long run.
The other thing that just occurred to me too, right, is that Valve allows these developers to put their keys off website, right, off Steam. Um, it does not harm Valve if those keys get revoked. Not really.
Financially, it
It
doesn't.
financially it doesn't, and if anything, most of the blame goes on the developer and the platform that sold them those keys. And if Valve is is not there now, Valve may be like the third person to blame in that line, but most of the blame is going to go on the developer, um, and the where the keys were sold. And and Valve may just suggest, maybe just stick to selling on Steam, right? Um, because it's in their benefit anyways for you to stick to Steam. They can control what happens on Steam. They're I don't know for sure that they're probably pretty good about chargebacks in terms of dealing with it, or trying to deal with anyone that's trying to use stolen credit cards to buy stuff off of Steam.
Yeah, and
So like
obviously Steam get their cut as well. They don't get the cut if it's bought from a third party.
right. So there's less of an incentive for them to really prioritize this. It's more work for something that doesn't really benefit them much. And so I feel that um and to put a cap on key revokings, again, like to Valve, like if you need to revoke that much, like it's no skin off their bones.
Ratchet, do you have anything that you want to add?
Not really. I don't. Sorry. I don't know how you resolve this issue. It's one of those things where it's like the resolution is going to be to limit key generation further. It's going to be something that,
Which they already do.
to an extent, like I can generate 1,000 keys, and they're not going to be like, "Why are you generating 1,000 keys?" But if I generate 50,000, 10,000 even, they're going to be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, because I suppose 1,000 keys, if you were to put it on something like Humble Bundle, it's not exactly a massive amount, and that'll run out quite quick in some instances.
Yeah, 1,000 keys is usually like what you'd get for giving it to like YouTubers and stuff. So like review keys, it'd be like, oh, okay, they're sending it out to just like everyone at this point.
Actually, sorry to butt in, but I've just got a question that you might have the answer to. When you apply to get keys generated by Steam, do they ask for any reason or a note to be filled in about what these keys are being used for?
Yes, I don't know if they read that note. It might be a little more self-referential, but yeah, you can put a note in. You can't. You have to give a reason.
I remember seeing a screenshot, I think like a year or so ago, of that screen for key generations. I don't think I had anything else to add to that, apart from the fact that I have seen at least a screen cap of the amount of keys and then the reasoning for it. So that is something that you have to do. And like again, like with that, if Valve cap key revocations, it hurts the developer then, especially if they need to revoke keys due to theft. And in theory, revoking keys should be something that almost never happens, right? Theoretically, it's something that should happen as little as possible. At most, the only thing I can think of if from Valve's perspective, is maybe follow up with a large amount of keys being revoked. Follow up with a dev, maybe a month or so later, ask more about it, just in case to see if there's a better idea to do, anything to do with it.
I do wonder.
It probably won't be.
I do wonder if maybe a solution could be if a developer's only revoking like, I don't know, 100, 200 game keys. Maybe Valve don't need to review something like that. But then if it's, say, 1,000, quite a large batch, then maybe it's something that should trigger a threshold where it's like, okay, if you're revoking this many keys, we need to have a look into it. Because I remember something like Death Penalty Beginning. They revoked something like 200,000 keys because they had like games on giveaway for years, and they decided that they wanted to take them all back for, I can't fully remember the reason, but it wasn't a justifiable reason. It was quite silly because it was basically like they made some marketing decisions that they later regretted. And Valve just seemed to let that happen. They did eventually look into the matter, and Valve themselves overrided that decision. and they reinstated the keys. But I do wonder if maybe in those instances, is it maybe that there's a certain threshold that needs to be met, and when it gets to that point where it's like you can't revoke this many keys unless you get Valve manual review, because then that maybe takes the burden off Valve a little bit in terms of human resources, in terms of what needs to be continuously under manual review. But then it also still adds that extra level of accountability on developers to make sure, well, developers and publishers to make sure that when you do revoke keys, they've got to be genuine reasons.
I think that the best that they can do, I think, for right now is maybe follow up with the developers that do revoke keys, find out, get their side of the story on things and kind of collect data, and then weigh the options of what to do in terms of, do they put a limit on it to where you have to put a reason when revoking keys, or you can only revoke so many of the ones that you've distributed, or worst case scenario, does Valve decide to start closing the ecosystem more, where they will only have, like, they set up a way to send keys to, like, approved partners, like directly to Humble via Steam's UI, right? And that way Valve can see the flow of keys, but also it would be with store, essentially Valve would say, hey, you can sell your keys on these stores and nothing else, because we don't know of anyone else that we trust. You get what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
essentially like an is there any deal approach. But in doing that, it also severely restricts the developers. Like, what if they want to do, like, charity keys, or something like that? Or, like, what if you have new websites that pop up that are reputable? What's the how's the process going to be trying to get those added to then this system? So regardless, like I said, that I feel like that would be the worst case scenario, where Valve decides to go, listen, this is just too much of a bother. We're only going to allow you to go through, like, approved third-party sellers.
Also, do you mean like selectively putting limitations on developers that have been shown to abuse those tools?
To be honest, I thought I was going to kind of phrase it as all developers, but that would probably be a better, idea with that.
I agree with
But
that one.
even
Yeah.
so, agree with on what select developers with the same idea,
Yeah, like
only through approved sellers.
a what do you call it? A tiered system for, like, what would you call it? Like a reputation system, where at first it's like, yeah, you have a good standing reputation, and then if you start to do shit like that, where it, like, oh, you're deliberately being an arsehole to people, cool, and then they just drop your reputation, so, like, it takes longer for you to get support requests through, and, like, if you try to if you have a history of, like, removing keys and you try to get more keys on, try to get more keys for something, it's like, nah, we're not going to generate you 5,000 keys, because the last time we did, you fucking revoked them from everyone. Like, we don't trust you. Like, our community has shown that you have been deceitful with your key generations and people's ability to own your game.
Yeah, I'd be in favour of something like that as well. I think that sounds like it's something that only penalises people that are in the wrong, rather than having a standardised process where, because it shouldn't be too autocratic either. I don't think it should be a case of Valve have to be so hands-on that they have full control over what websites that those keys end up on, because then obviously then you get grey areas where it's like, okay, but what if I just want to send my key through an email to a content creator or a website or a journalist or something like that? But no, I can see how maybe a tiered system could work, or a reputation system. But in terms of
combining that with, like, approved third-party sellers, essentially.
I don't know. I don't think that it necessarily needs an approved third-party sellers approach. Because some developers have their own shop, like a website where they have just a shop where they can buy Steam keys directly. I know that Red Candle Games have their own, but obviously because
they had to. Even CD Projekt Red abandoned them. That's
did they?
a story for another time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So initially they were a few years ago. This was the same year that Cyberpunk came out. It was a bad PR year for CD Projekt Red. They announced that they were gonna have Red Candle Games, right? They're the makers of, was it Devotion? They announced that they were gonna host their game on there, and then like a few days later, they then announced that due to all the concerns from quote unquote gamers that they would not have them on the store, which to me sounds like there was a lot of upset Chinese players, users, who complained to them, and I guess CD Projekt Red took that as a sign that they shouldn't have them on their store.
No, okay. Do we have anything else we want to talk about with the comment, or are we happy to move on?
I think we could move on.
Yeah, the only thing I disagree with is, specific platforms for games. Specific platforms for keygen, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
The other thing I'd point out is the only downside to the thing that we were talking about just then with like having a standing with Steam. The only downside to that is that people will just go and create whole new dev accounts and get reset in their standing. But the problem is that won't give you copies of the game that you're trying to give away to people. Because it would, like, the way I think they would do it is it would tie directly into that that game rather than the developer as well. Like, it's the developer standing, but also that game. So if you add another developer on, that game is still in bad standing. So you're going to have to go and create a whole new game. And I think at that point, if you just literally re-uploaded the game on a new account, it would flag it for Valve and they would delete it and be like, no, you can't switch your standing by recreating the game on a new developer account. Fuck you.
Mm-hmm. It's a good little thought experiment about how something like that could potentially take semblance, I think. It might be something worth entertaining as well in the future.
I think this is... as a last thought, like, this is the problem that Valve are constantly faced that I think a lot of people don't think about, is like they go and implement something they think will be a long-term fix, and then fucking scammers literally 2 weeks later have found a way around it. So it's just this constant dance.
Yeah, you'll never have something that releases and it's bulletproof. There'll always be people there to test the boundaries and test the limitations and just try and take the piss as much as possible. But no, thank you, Michael von Anken, for the comment. If you want to see a comment of yours highlighted in future episodes of the podcast, please do send us in, put a comment on our forum threads, our announcements, to us on X, on Blue Sky, on Discord, on any social media that we're on, and we might choose to highlight it for our next segment. So, moving swiftly on, still staying on the topic of Steam keys and Steam key revocations, there has been quite a big incident, a series of incidents with keys being revoked that's happened this week. A total of 7 games have been revoked this last week. From 3 different developers. One developer was behind 4 of these titles. The games that have been revoked are some indie games called Crazy Car, The First Lust of God, Fantasyland, Seeklove, Rolling Ball HD Remaster, 808 Academy, and Sad Satan. Users were reporting that they got notices on their Steam account saying that the keys had been revoked by the developers of those games. The 808 Academy developer has not responded to the claims as far as we're aware. However, we did get alerted that apparently AOA Academy is in fact a stolen game, republished without the original developer's permission. So the people that own that store page, 1, aren't the original owners, and 2, already have been shown to get up to some dodgy dealings. With regards to Sad Satan, The developer did release a brief statement basically saying that there is a dispute between them and some third-party key resellers. Notably, the ones named were Daily Indie Game, Go Bundle, and Otaku Maker. Otaku Maker since has been defunct for a few years. And then the one that is going to probably occupy the majority of the conversation today is the Crazy Car, First Dust of God, Fantasyland, and Seek Love developer, going by the name of Sunyu, but Sunyu has a few different aliases across the Steam store, but we'll refer to them as Sunyu, just because that's their Steam account name, just for the sake of consistency, because I don't want to keep on going Sunyu / this name / this name. We received quite a few reports from users that had bought the Steam keys from Daily Indie Game, saying that their keys had been revoked. Some users went over to the forum thread to report about the incident, trying to ask questions, asking what's going on, why are these keys revoked. Some were trying to email the developer because initially the developer wasn't responding to anything. The developer then went on to delete forum threads of people complaining about the issue, but at the same time still didn't give an official response. So we did our usual thing. We wrote up an article piece about what was going on, and offering our support to Steam users that had received this issue, because even though Daily Indie Game has, from what we've experienced, some questionable dealings with developers, they are at least a genuine retailer. They at least do work with indie developers to get their games distributed. The only thing that is really notably bad, from my experience, from what I've been told from other developers, is that Daily Indie Game just don't offer that great deals, because they're basically a bundle site that'll bundle 10 games in for $2, so you don't really see a lot of financial return. It's more so just developers that are just really eager to just get their games in front of as many people as possible, for a very, very small fee. But I kind of just think at that point, why not just make the game free rather than going through a 2-cent bundle, because you're not going to get anything worthwhile anyway. But anyway, so the incident was raised to us. The developer was censoring discussions. We did our article, raised the issue up a bit more. Then I think the next day, the developer, Sunyu, did finally issue a response. I just literally an hour and a half ago put up a follow-up article talking about this. And the response that Sunyu gave was very, very bad. The response basically entailed deflection, victim blaming. It was basically a meltdown that they had in the forums and across their news announcements over the span of 2 days, because they put up 3 different responses. All of them have since been deleted, but I was sent by, I'll give a shout out to a few Steam users, Robler5500, Michael Von Anken, who was also in our comment comeback this week, and Borsdy also sent through archives that they took of the announcements, so we still had access to give them full scrutiny. If you want to read the full scrutiny, you can go and check out our latest article. But some points that Sunyu raised in the announcement was that the games that they revoked were high school projects that they worked on, and they were issuing Steam keys at the time when they didn't fully understand Steam's functionality. A direct quote from the announcement that they put up was, quote, "I have noticed that these games are activated in countries around the world almost every day, but I always chose to turn a blind eye." And I kind of just thought, well, why is that a red flag? Why is that a concern? You're distributing on a global platform. Why is it weird that people from all over the world are playing your game? That's not exactly a red herring. Sorry, it is a bit of a red herring, but no, it's not a red herring, double negative. But they also eventually disclosed that this has also been down to a dispute with Daily Indie Game, where it basically comes down to, allegedly, Sunyu requested that while Daily Indie Game could distribute their game keys, they didn't want to see the game keys put in any bundles, and Daily Indie Game allegedly put one of their games in a bundle without the developer's permission. And so the developer's response was to attempt to contact Daily Indie Game. Daily Indie Game apparently fell silent and weren't responding, so the developer decided to revoke the Steam keys from the customers that bought the games from Daily Indie Game, and seemingly, in my opinion, try and fan the flames in the hopes that the users would go and protest a Daily Indie Game. but it obviously didn't quite work out that way, and instead the users went back to the developer. And I said this in the article as well. The developer seemed quite surprised that this was the response, and I was even saying it to SVD before we started recording. It's if you're a user that had their key revoked and you're presented with avenues of where to go, if you were to go to Daily Indie Game, they're only ever going to have to get in contact with the developer anyway, because the developer revoked the full Daily Indie Game batch. So it's not like if you contact Daily Indie Game, they're able to give you a replacement key, because all of those keys that they have access to are revoked. So the best thing that the user can do is they just cut out the middleman and they just go straight to the source, which was the developer. The developer is the one that has the keys. They're the ones that revoke the keys. And then the developer just spent days just being silent and removing any and all content, which didn't help their case at all. They attempt to label the Daily Indie Game keys as fraudulent, but it wasn't fraudulent because it was a business agreement that they entered into. Yes, allegedly Daily Indie Game breached that agreement, but you're still punishing people that had absolutely nothing to do with that, and it still doesn't make the keys fraudulent because it was something that you consented to and something you agreed and willingly handed over. What's going on here is more of a contractual dispute that you're now involving people that have nothing to do with that into as well. And then the most laughable part was near the end of the first post, where they said, quote, "I figured 7 to 8 years had long exceeded the total lifespan of these games. It was time to punish those merchants." And it's like, again, these people didn't purchase a rental. They purchased a game to keep. If they were going to rent the game, that wasn't disclosed to them at the point of purchase, and there's only been one person to interfere with that, and that's been Sunyu themselves. They then made a couple of other posts. I'll keep this one short because I know I've been yammering on for a bit given the context, but there was a couple of other posts that were made by Sunyu. The second one was talking about some criticism of the game, all of his games' quality, and also the pricing, because there was some funky stuff happening with the pricing. When people look into Steam DB, the games that he had were dirt cheap, and then they would go up to be priced at like $150, and then they would be like $60. They're still priced relatively highly for the actual games that you're getting, and they seemingly bizarrely label them as priceless works of art from their high school era, regardless of what other people think. And they just regurgitate these claims of the keys that people bought were illegal. They only disabled the fraudulent keys. We allowed you access to these games for 8 years out of goodwill. And it's like, well, if you're going to a supermarket and you buy a set of oranges and you go home, they're not letting you keep them out of goodwill. They're letting you keep them because there was a transaction that took place. And they once again try and insinuate to people at the end, you need to go to a Daily Indie Game to sort the problem out, even though Daily Indie Game have absolutely no resolution for it, because again, Daily Indie Game don't have any keys that work. And then the last post that was made was a analogy post of someone buying. It has to be read to be believed. I'm not going to read the full thing, but it was basically a story of someone buying a $1,000 phone, someone getting a $1,000 phone. Someone buys it for $1. The buyer is supposedly knowingly taking a risk buying this $1 phone. The company that is behind the phone manufacturing locks the device 8 years later, and then it's still, for some reason, the buyer's fault. For some reason. And I mentioned it's a terrible analogy because the Steam keys, again, were legitimate activations. The users have no way to detect risks because the keys come directly from the developer, and no one actually expects a game key to be revoked years after purchase. So that's it in a nutshell. I have tried to reach out to the developer for...
Hold on, they didn't come directly from the developer. It came from...
No, but I mean the keys are generated. The keys are generated from the developer. The developer is the source of those keys. And then they come through a retailer, but the retailer is just offering a service of housing the keys that were generated from that source. And that's another point that I made in the article. As far as the users are concerned, from a user perspective, Daily Indie Game hasn't done anything bad, because Daily Indie Game have put the game up for sale. They've promised, hey, if you give us this money, here's your key. The users have given the money, Daily Indie Game's provided the key. The users have gotten the key from Daily Indie Game 7 or 8 years later, and then the key gets revoked. Not from Daily Indie Game, but it's the developer that's done it. So I don't think it's too bizarre why people have gone to the developer in the aftermath of this incident rather than Daily Indie Game. But that was the very long and short of it, of what's happened. Obviously, that's not the only incident that's happened, but it's been the one that's been the most eventful by far. There's people on Steam Gifts and social medias that are not happy with the developers' response. They're not happy with the handling of it. People are still just wanting their games back that they bought, just sheerly out of principle. I don't want it to necessarily be just a repeated discussion on what we've already said in the last few weeks about game keys being revoked and the ethics behind it, because I think we've exhausted that topic to death. But I thought this incident with Sunyu was interesting because it's just been an absolute PR nightmare, and I think they've somewhat maybe recognised that by the fact that they've removed these posts. They initially did open the forums back up, but I went back again, and now they've reinstated forums that existed before they just did a mass deletion. They've reinstated the ones that aren't talking about key revocations, but they've locked all of them, and any threads that are coming up about the incident are now getting removed or deleted. I put up a forum post earlier today just basically reaching out to Sunyu and saying, hey, it's not too late, you can still maybe turn this around. I tried privately contacting him to no response, so I tried the forum, said, hey, it's not too late to turn this around, I advise maybe trying to do this, and I got a forum ban, unfortunately. So I guess what are the takeaways? What could potentially be learned from this experience?
We learned that you can talk a lot without breathing.
But it was all informative.
It's true.
At first, as you're first going through the story, I was like, oh yeah, newer indie dev in over his head. And then you mentioned, like, oh yeah, by the way, he also said these are works of art from his high school works of art. I was making games in high school. I went to university to make games. I got a degree in programming. None of those games are good. None of the games I made in high school, none of the games I made in university are good, and I'd be embarrassed if anyone saw them. You cannot call the shit you made when you were still learning how to make games works of art. That's wild. That's insane. That's pure, like, you've never been told no energy. It's like, there's something going on here in this person's head, because if somebody called anything I made at university or in high school a work of art, I would be like, have you played games? Do you play games if you think this is good? That's wild. Yeah, no, I think the developers on the hook here for everything. Fuck them. Very specifically fuck them for all the shit they've been doing. Like, yes, what was a daily indie game didn't do what you agreed to, but also did you sign something? Given you were probably still a high school student at the time, you probably didn't sign anything, which means, you fucked yourself there. It's like anything. If you don't have a signature, if you don't have an agreement with signatures on it, and somebody fucks you over, you have no recourse. You literally have just essentially screwed yourself over at that point. So that's why you need to get stuff notarized and fucking signed by everyone involved in it. That way you have at least legal resource, or a legal resource in the case that something happens. But yeah, this is purely on the developer, and I think they should reinstate everyone's keys and just essentially eat that cost. Calling your high school projects, as somebody who has worked with a ton of people who all have high school and university projects as well, who we all get drunk, play them, and call them what they are, which is usually fun, but just dog shit. Like, it's nothing you made in high school is good in regards to, like, making games. It's like artists, right? You think you do some good art in high school, then you go and, do it professionally and realize, oh, that was all fucking garbage. Like, I've learned so much since then, and I've become such a better artist. Or, like, musicians.
Yeah. Really anything creativity-wise. So, like, writing,
anything.
Music.
Anything you learn.
I agree with you as well, where that was kind of the advice I was giving, and it's also what I've said, because it's not the first time that something like that's happened. Because I think most of the key revocation complaints that aren't genuine generally come from they've had a dispute with the website that's selling the keys. It's not like it's an illegal transaction, but maybe something's happened that they weren't expecting to happen, or maybe the website is genuinely at fault and they've done something that they said that they wouldn't. But at the same time as well, it's the revoking the keys isn't really the answer, because you're just involving people that'll be angry at you because they will see that it's you that has done this to them. The retailer has delivered what they promised to them, but you've now interfered with that transaction. Um, and there was the main thing for me that there was loads of laughable points throughout all of these three posts, but the thing for me was like trying to present the idea that they have let these users have the keys for 7 to 8 years out of goodwill. Like that's mental to me. That is mental. Like I don't know the full ins and outs of what the deal was they had with Daily Indie Game. I propose that it might have been that maybe Daily Indie Game gave them an upfront fee, they bought the keys off them, then Daily Indie Game just sold them. Or what's probably a more likely event to have happened is that Daily Indie Game have put those games up for sale and they've just cut the developer in on a percentage of revenue that they get. So it's not like they'll have received no money for the purchases that's happened on Daily Indie Game, so they've still effectively taken money and they've ran, basically. I don't know the full amount, I don't know the full scale of how many people it's impacted, but I think it's at least over 100. At least over 100 users have been affected, looking at the discussion forums that are ongoing on different websites, on Steam Gifts and our forums as well. The reviews, because what some people have been doing is they've been buying the games to then leave a negative review to warn people about what the developer's been doing. And some of them have gotten like over 100 upvotes as well, just from people visiting the page. So it's at least struck enough of a nerve with people, and I think rightfully so, that it is generating a response from people, and a lot of them are still very adamant that they're wanting their keys reinstated as well. But the developer just so far doesn't seem to be nudging at the minute. SVD, what are your thoughts?
First off, him doing the $1,000 phone to $1. I understand what he was trying to go with on that. basically saying, basically saying that because like Daily Indie Game sells all this stuff for like dirt cheap, dirt cheap. That consumer, any customer of that store should be kind of understand that it's kind of suspicious for stuff to be sold for that dirt cheap there. I think that's what he was trying to get at with that, and that's why he was trying to also kind of partially blame the consumers with that. That like, well, Daily Indie Game, they sell this stuff for, was it like a penny or a few or like a dollar or
Few
something like that,
cents. Few cents.
a few cents. If you're buying anything for a few cents, you should know that there's something off with that. It's either poor quality, perhaps it's stolen. I think that's what he was trying to insinuate. That being said, he was also the one that did business with them, so he can't exactly, be blameless in that. The other thing is that he makes it sound like they stole this stuff from him when he admitted originally he gave them a bunch of free keys before then doing a follow-up business transaction about it. So, in like in any other case, right, where um, if it had been where a developer's like if the Factorio devs keys wound up on Daily Indie Game, right, that would be different because Factorio devs wouldn't be caught dead having their keys on there. And it would be very suspicious and most likely stolen keys, right? Keys bought with stolen credit cards and then sold to that website. And that's different. That in that case, that's and that's something we've seen before where Devs have revoked keys that have been bought with stolen credit cards. Unfortunately, they still get shit for it. Even though I think in some of the circumstances they really shouldn't have. But usually users don't know any better that, a few of these websites are shitty as shit with that. That being said, um, I like the other thing too when looking at this is I want to bring up the SteamDB price history. If this dev didn't have such a weird price history stuff, I feel like I would just chalk this up to someone who's very young and perhaps they regretted their initial involvement with Daily Indie Game, or maybe someone told them, "Hey, you're getting the raw end of the deal with this. You need to put a stop to this and recoup what you can." And you thought that this was the best way to go forward, which it isn't. Um, so I feel like there seems to be a reaction to I think his earlier actions that he made. But the thing I can't get over is then his weird price history, where some of these games were priced at like 199.99, and looking at the history, it looks like they were priced that way so that way he could do a discount to make it look, oh yeah, look at the 90% discount on this or 95%. It's the same bull that a lot of like stores and places try to pull, especially like around Black Friday, which, just a reminder to anyone out there shopping for Black Friday, keep that in mind. But yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts are with this, is that I feel like it's mostly a developer. Yeah, again, he said that he made the games when he was in what, high school, right? That was about what, 7 years ago. So high school is 18.
He'll be at least in his early
So,
20s.
so he'd be about 25-ish from the sounds of it.
Could be as young as 23.
True. So, he's 23 to 25. Um, and clearly he regretted his actions. I think he's still immature to understand um, that this is not the way to go. Do we know his nationality?
No.
Okay. Um, like he's not the first dev that we've come across who revoked keys in a panic because they felt that they got stiffed out of one of these websites. What was it? There was someone that revoked a bunch of keys, I think, due to, was it Otaku Maker? Otaku
Mm-hmm.
Maker, I think, stiffed them, or I think Indigala may have stiffed them. And so they revoked keys in retaliation. Um, and I think in his case, it's that young, dumb kind of thing, and immaturity with that. But it's still weird with the pricing that he tried to pull too as
I
well.
also want to add regarding the price, because he seems a little bit, I don't know what the word for it is here, but like it's like my games are works of art where people like, your games are your babies. First of all, your games aren't your babies, and to any developer out there listening to this, you need to get out of that mindset. If somebody shits on your game, you shouldn't react viscerally. You shouldn't be like, I spent fucking 10 years working on this fucking game. You should be like, yeah, that's fair, that's your opinion, and take it as constructive feedback. But also in that light, real quick, regarding specifically the pricing of his game, your game is not worth what you think it's worth what people are willing to pay. Which is why AAA games make themselves so expensive, because they know people are willing to pay that much. Indie games, $30 or 30 Australian dollars, because they know people aren't willing to spend as much money on them. You've got to change the pricing to the market. You can't force people to pay what you think they're worth. Like, there's a lot that goes into that as well, like factoring in the cost of development and stuff, and like how much you think you'll get back based on like how much you've spent and how much you think people are willing to pay for it. But for the most part, you can't make a game $60 to $80 and have it be essentially an asset flip.
It wasn't even
No.
that. So first off, looking at the price history for Crazy Car, he sold it starting out for most of the years at $5.99. Then, what seems to be out of nowhere, he sold it. He raised the price to $199.99, and then kept it like that for several months. Then did the whole heavy discount to where he took it from the $200 to now $10. He did that a few times before then, dropping the base price again to then $120. Um, then raising it back up to 200 again, most likely to do the shenanigans with the discounts, before then dropping it down to what it used to be, the $599.99, and then and then back in July, he then raised the base price up to $49.99, and then once again doing those heavy discount stuff. Like, I could believe an immature dev and everything, and someone who emotionally responds kind of thing, but the stuff he pulled starting last year, that's suspicious as hell. Um, it is also well, it's not even suspicious. It's like if he did it just to do the discount, that's a no. Like that. That's some shady shit to do and to pull.
Just almost a little bit of a pivot, something that I'll also raise now. This wasn't in response to this developer in particular, but Daily Indie Game, there was an email that got sent out from their support email address to, I think, a user that was inquiring about what had been going on, and Daily Indie Game's exact words were, quote, "Same old, sell keys in bundles, revoke them, hoping that people will purchase them again." So the developers Daily Indie Games kind of alleging that, I think this was in response to the Sad Satan game in particular, where they seem to think that with that kind of practice of revoking the keys that were sold in their bundles, they allege that some developers try and do that in the hopes that they will get some sales generated from players that will just go and buy the game again. I'm not sure how successful that process is. I know for sure, obviously, with the with Sunyu developer, there has been people that have gone out and purchased their games just to leave a negative review, but I think that they get them refunded at the same time while they pen to see if they're going to get their key reinstated. But I just wanted to throw that in to just show Daily Indie Games' response to it all. I don't suppose either of you have anything to say about what Daily Indie Game have alleged.
I like the no-nonsense approach they take. I'm a fan of that.
They're just very to the point. Yeah, Sunyu writes 3 news posts and then Daily Indie Game just get back with 1 line of text.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, this guy's just scamming you. Don't worry about it.
Right, in that case, we will move on to our final topic. We are going to run over slightly, gents. Very sorry. The new Steam hardware has been announced. Going to be released next year in early 2026. There is a brand new console PC system coming out. There is also a brand new VR headset, and there's also, what's the third thing? I've already forgotten it.
The controller.
It was the thing that's it. I was going to say it's the thing I was most excited for as well, the controller. So these new pieces of hardware are coming out. I still haven't even got a Steam Deck. I'm saving up for a Steam Deck, hopefully over the Christmas period to treat myself. I've been holding off because I keep on, when I asked you for your recommendation, Ratchet, I'm saving up for the 1 terabyte model because I was like, do I get the 1 terabyte or do I get the one below it? And right now, you'll just regret not getting the 1 terabyte.
Yeah, I do that with everything I buy. It's just like, at this point, the biggest one is not that much more expensive. I'll just grab it. Plus, it's a tax write-off. I develop games on it.
Is there any of these that are particularly exciting to either of you? I'm looking forward to the VR headset. Actually looks really cool, and the the actual computer itself, I'm like, oh, I'm really tempted with that, because then I can actually finally run some shit, and you can stop bullying me, Ratchet, about not being able to run. What was it, Oblivion Remaster you were bullying me for the other week?
I wasn't bullying you. I was pointing out that you might not want to buy it because it probably won't run on your computer, because it doesn't run well on most people's computers because it's an unoptimized piece of shit.
But anyway, what are you looking forward to?
As somebody who has a Steam controller, I use it with my Steam Deck every so often, seeing a different layout that isn't indented but is out, like it's pushed out rather than pushed in, which if you look at the original Steam controllers, you'll understand what I mean. I'm interested. The weirdest thing is they did what Xbox did with the OG Xbox controller, and they've made it thick as fuck. And it's that's the one thing that's gonna keep me away from it, is the fact that it's got the weird handholds on it, the little touchpads. It's very thick. It doesn't look comfortable to use. The Steam machine I'm interested in. If you asked me at the beginning of the year to place a $10,000 bet on Valve releasing a Steam machine, I would laugh in your face and happily place that bet, because the last Steam machine was an absolute fucking mess. The one from 2014 that they co-released with Alienware. It was incredibly expensive. It wasn't impressive in its hardware. And it wasn't good. But the new Steam machine, they fixed a lot. It's very small. It's got the exact hardware specs of Steam's average user. So they went into the Steam stats, which was really cool. They went into the Steam stats and figured out the average CPU, GPU, memory, etc., and built it into a Steam machine. Yeah, the VR headset is the one I'm a little sketch about, because it's not like a Oculus/Meta Quest. You can't install games on it and play them on it, as far as I'm aware. It's literally just a streaming device. So the moment you're outside of good Wi-Fi range or your computer's turned off, you can't play VR games. And I know the argument is why would you want to play VR games on the go? But as somebody who's been on an airplane with an Oculus Quest, sitting on an airplane watching movies in a screen the size of the plane is fantastic. And you can also turn it off so you can't see all the people looking at you. And with noise cancellation, it's so good. I think I fell asleep in it, but yeah, it's interesting. The one thing I'm weirded out about is a Steam frame, but also I'd like to say thanks to whoever decided not to call it the Decade, because that is such a shit name and it hits my ear in a way that makes me angry. I don't think I've had words annoy me as much as the word Steam Decade. It made me so angry. I was like, that's such a shit name. Call it literally anything else. Anything. You could call it the Steam Fuck You and I would be more happy than a Decade. And I was like, that's such a bad name.
SVD, what about you? Are you excited for any of the hardware that's coming out?
I mean, I would say the Steam Machine and the controller. Especially
Not the
because
VR.
I grew up... I've never actually tried VR yet, and if I try VR, I'd rather not do it on my own expense.
I went
But
to
I grew up with the big Duke Xbox controller, so I don't think the Steam controllers would bother me. And plus they look a lot more like the trackpad. I've tried it. It's kind of weird, but I like the thumbsticks better. So having the trackpad be there, and for the times that I would need it, but having the thumbsticks, the traditional thumbsticks there, I think it's just better. So
I was just going to say, I respect, both as a developer and player, I respect Valve, but whoever keeps pushing those fucking thumb pads for mouse emulation, please stop. Please.
I'm keen to give it a go, because I'm mouse and keyboard all the way. There are some games I prefer with a controller, but for the most part, if it's got keyboard and mouse and control support, I will always take keyboard and mouse. But I'm curious to see how that input can work on a controller. I'm keen to just give it a try.
I was just going to say, it's built into the Steam Deck, so if you buy a Steam Deck, you'll get to use it. It's like using a trackpad on a laptop. It's very weird, and it doesn't feel good for like first-person shooters. It's very counterintuitive.
You're not selling it to me.
No, I'm not selling it to you. Steam Deck, absolutely fantastic. Buy it. You will not use the trackpads, though. I actively dislike the trackpads, and I have since the original Steam controller. I get what they're going for. Yeah.
What did you use instead of the trackpads then?
On what, the deck or the controller?
Both.
The controller.
The deck has the joysticks, doesn't it?
Yes, on the deck you use the joysticks. On the controller, your left hand is forced to use the... I think both hands you're forced to use the touchpad, which is what upset me. Which is, I am looking forward to all this new gear. I don't have a job at the moment, so I can't afford any of it, but when I get a job, I'm going to fucking buy all of it. But, yeah, the new controller having joysticks is actually fantastic, because it's sitting here somewhere. The Steam controller used to only have, I think it was one joystick on the left-hand side. Let me have a look. I can't find it. I'm gonna have to Google image it. Yeah, it had a left stick, and then the right side was just ABXY. But yeah, it wasn't. Pardon me, it wasn't great. The trackpad kind of sucked. The fact that the deck still has trackpad is really weird, but also, it's fine. It's like they also used there's gyro built into the Steam Deck. And the weirdest thing I had was I was walking on the treadmill at the gym the other day, and I brought my Steam Deck with me because I was like, I'll just go down, I'll just walk for an hour. And so I brought it with me, and the gyroscopic controls controlled the camera movement. It was a mouse emulator for Dark Souls 3, so every time I'd walk, I'd be on the treadmill walking and trying to move, my camera would just be doing this like figure 8 motion from my walking. I was like, what the fuck? There's some very odd additions.
I think I just need to get a deck at this point. As soon as I get a deck,
Yes.
and then I can start gradually upgrading from there.
I see the point of the Steam machine as something you put in another room in your house, but if you have like a console already, you probably wouldn't rush out to buy a Steam machine. But I think the coolest thing about it is you plug the Steam controller into it, then you can also plug keyboard and mouse in, because it is just a Linux computer. So if you want to work on it, then you just work on it. It's just a computer. I think that's where Steam also will outsell the Xbox and the PlayStation, because it's like, hey, I want to just watch YouTube videos. It's like, just watch them on your Steam machine. It's like, yeah, cool. Whereas like with your Xbox and PlayStation, you need to go and get the app for it, then you need to log in, and then they only play specific games. The only downside I see to the Steam Deck and the machine are certain games can't be played, like certain games with anti-cheat, like Call of Duty and Battlefield and that. They all require Windows like TPM and shit, like basically the secure boot systems, which Linux has a form of secure boot, but it's not the one that Windows has, so the anti-cheat developers aren't going to build for it, because they can't force you to not run cool programs in the background. Basically, I'm interested in seeing the general populace learn about Linux. As much as I like Linux, I also hate Linux fanboys, but it's going to be interesting seeing people dive headfirst into specifically SteamOS.
They've not got a release date for any of these, have they? They've just said early 2026.
Yeah, they've just said early 2026, so people are hoping like January, February, but I think it would be like maybe Q2 2026. So like
Yeah,
April,
maybe even
May.
April. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that they will drop all of them at once, or are they going to
Yes.
stagger the release of them all?
No, I think they're just going to drop them in one big bundle, and I hope they do, because if I have a job by then, I'm not paying rent that month. They might stagger them, but I think what they'll do is because the hype is so high and because people know Valve do quality products and because the Australian government bullied them into it, they offer, proper support for the products. They will drop them all at once and then just let people grab them. But they also, there's a lot going on, like Jeff Keighley talking about the 21st birthday of Half-Life 2, given 21 is not outside people in the United States and some other countries where 21's a drinking age. 21's not a significant number for a video game. So I'm interested into seeing what happens next month at the Game Awards, because they're dropping all these new consoles, right? So why would they not drop a new game to go with them? I'm very interested. As long as it's not Deadlock, I'll be very interested.
Yeah, theories are running wild on social media. I've seen a lot of people saying like next year's Game of the Year contender will be between Half-Life 3 and Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, if Grand Theft Auto 6 ever actually gets released. Just delay it again. You know what?
10 years
we don't
later.
want to compete with Half-Life. Yeah.
They know they can't compete with Half-Life.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be a Half-Life. I had someone tell me that there's a lot of stuff in Deadlock and Counter-Strike 2 that references a thing called HLX, which I was like, it's called Half-Life 10 because it's taken them 10 tries to make this fucking game and this is the 10th iteration. And they're like, actually, they think it means Zen. I was like, if that's the case, that's the one Half-Life I'm not buying. I hated Zen. I don't know if either of you remember Zen from Half-Life 1.
I don't.
It's the last part of Half-Life 1, and it's the worst part of Half-Life 1.
I do. I watched Civi's video on it.
Yeah. But yeah, very, very interesting time for Valve. Very, very interesting.
And do either of you have any more closing thoughts about anything we've talked about?
Stop revoking your Steam keys because you got ripped off by a game publisher. Because you suck at contracts. Get a lawyer. Okay. Genuinely speaking, without kind of making fun of people, or layering my entire sentence with thick sarcasm. If you're working in games, and I think this is something people don't really say that often, is if you're working in games, have a lawyer or have somebody. Like, they don't need to be on retainer. You're not like fucking Bethesda. But be aware of a lawyer who works with contracts and specifically contracts in, like, games. Because when you do these deals with these companies, even with companies like Humble Bundle or Green Man, reputable sources, contracts. You need contracts. It's the one thing that stops you getting fucked over. Because if they fuck you over, then there is legal grounds there. You agreed to something. It's very weird that I have to say this, but it's also very weird that people are revoking Steam keys.
But it also gives you an actual legal route to pursue rather than just feeling like you've got no option. Well, you shouldn't even ever feel like there's no option other than to revoke the keys, because that should never really be on the table, in my opinion. It actually gives you a means to pursue that issue if they, like in what the developer claims Daily Indie Game did, they just stopped responding to them.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you to everyone listening for listening to the latest episode. As a reminder, it'll be this week coming on Sunday, November 23rd at 11 p.m. GMT. Potentially +1, maybe not. There will be a notification going up on YouTube. There will be a scheduled live stream going up at some point. We will be doing a live special podcast for the charity streams, for the charity fundraising that we're going to be doing starting next week. Please do maybe leave some suggestions on what you want us to talk about, or we can take some suggestions in live on the chat while we talk as well. Should be fun. Should be a good time. Thank you again, gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you to our patrons as well. Huge thank you to them. They make everything possible that we do. Huge thank you to Emigrant, Calf, Stefan, Luke, Old Navy, Twidget, and Nin Nin for your continued support. If you want to become a patron today, there is a link in the description, as well as a link to all the other podcasts that we've done so far. A full playlist is available on the YouTube channel. Our link tree is down below as well. Links to our social medias, including X, Blue Sky, and not our Discord, because Linktree for some reason doesn't support Discord links, but there is a separate link to our Discord in the description as well. If you're not a member already, please do join Sentinels of the Store. Follow our curator on Steam. Links to those will also be in our link tree. And once again, until next time, have a fantastic week and take care.